Greetings, my brothers and sisters. Sending gratitude to all of you who are joining in today to accompany us down the rabbit hole of self-exploration through plant medicines. My name is Ryan Sprague, and I'm here to tell you that your frequency is now set and tuned to explore psychedelic medicines and the impact they've made among the countless psychonauts exploring the last true frontier. Buy a ticket and take the ride with me as we get true first-hand accounts of the experiences, benefits, risks, and transformations taking place within the ever-expanding world of psychedelic medicines on This One Time on Psychedelics. One of the main reasons I started this podcast was to showcase the stories, experiences, and impact these medicines have made upon people's lives. That being said, I still get goosebumps when I hear those stories, as they remind me of the immense power that not only these medicines hold within them, but that we also hold within us. Today's guest on the show is a returning guest, one of my dear brothers in the world, and someone who is one of the best storytellers I have ever met. And in today's episode, we dive deep into a recent journey he had utilizing the trifecta of MDMA, Psilocybin, and Intramuscular Ketamine. As you'll hear, he recently attended a brand new center called the Awaken Center that has opened up in Austin, Texas, that has incredible staff on hand, medical teams, etc. And to say his journey was profound would be an understatement. But I'll save the details as a surprise for you to uncover as you tune in. So please, help me in welcoming my man Adam Schell back onto the show. Adam Schell, my brother, man, was I excited to see when I opened my calendar on my birthday to see that I was doing a podcast with you today. I could think of no better birthday gift than to dive into all the things we both love together. So before we dive into a lot of the different stuff, which for everyone who's listening, if you haven't listened to Adam's first episode, definitely go check that out. But, Adam and I were talking beforehand, and he's got some really cool stuff we're going to talk about. But as I always do, I'm going to let the divine guide us. So before I get to all that, how are you doing today, brother?
Good. Really good, man. Nice.
Yeah.
Kind of rainy spring day in Texas, so it's been good.
Yeah, it's finally sunny here. We switched weather for a little while, Right.
Well, we need the rain, so it's been good.
Yeah. So funny. Whenever I go to California, it always rains. And people were like, this never happens. And I'm like, well, it happens every time I come here. And Austin's the same way. Like I come there and it's torrential downpours, hailing. They're like, this never happens. I'm like, really? Every time I come here, it happens.
That's funny.
So funny, man.
You're a rainmaker.
Yeah. Guilty as charged, I can put that on my LinkedIn profile next to Cannabis Coach,
Rainmaker, yes. That's great.
Cannabis Coach and Rainmaker, people will be so confused. But dude, I'm super excited to dive in. I always love talking with you, man. You always stimulate my curiosity and my intellect to an immense level. And I know that recently, considering the name of this show, I know recently you had a very powerful psychedelic experience. And I thought it would be great if we could open it up there and have you share what transpired recently for you. If you want to share what medicines you were sitting with, any aspects you're down to share, let her rip, tater chip.
So there's a new psychedelic spiritual retreat center that's opened up literally like just a couple miles off of downtown Austin in a neighborhood called Oak Hill. It's 13 acres. It's like Condé Nast beautiful. Like they had a budget. They did it right. Like the rooms, the design, the space. It's fantastic. They have these smaller kind of healing yurts. They have a main house, the pool, and they have like a 2,000 square foot yoga space. And then they have their larger, like 3,000 square foot temple space. So I had met the owner, William Naylor. He has the Within Center, which is a licensed ketamine clinic. And now they've kind of broadened it up. And so he and I met and we were like peas in a pod, like we totally hit it off. So he invited me to sit in. He gave me a founding membership. He's a big fan of Brain Supreme. So he's a huge pickleball player. And one of the things that's happened, so Brain Supreme does really well with like executive alpha types, like killers who are looking always for a 5 or 10 or 15% advantage, the peptide crowd, the functional MDs, the listen to the Huberman podcast kind of crowd. And a lot of these guys I've gotten into very competitive pickleball because it's like the most competitive. There's actually a pro league that's forming up for like 50 plus. And Brain Supreme has gotten huge in that world. Like it started with one guy and his game improved and he's like, the ball is this big. So he had found out about me through the pickleball world. And because he's a big pickleballer. So, and then, then the extent of what I do in Brain Supreme. So he loves it. So we're really good friends. And then they gave me a founding membership because I help on the supply side and they're retailing Brain Supreme and so forth. So you show up at 9:30 in the morning and you get like, we're in the temple space. It's beautiful. You know, there's great music playing. You get this great hug in, and you get an MDMA opener, I think around like 150 milligrams. Then you sit down. It was 8 men, 2 female facilitators, 2 male facilitators. William took the lead there. He kind of gave a sense of what to expect for the day. They then offered hape, which is the Amazonian finely ground tobacco, which just sizzles right through 6th and 7th chakra. Like it's like literally, it's like the most intense, like wasabi. It's like if you snorted like super fine wasabi.
Yeah, that's a good analogy, dude.
Little like horseradish wasabi, like little rough at first, but then it kind of gets cool as it settles in, and you literally feel like this whole area just kind of sizzle and open up. Then he passed around a piece of mushroom. I think like 1.5 gram, 1 gram or 1.5 gram. And we set our intention for the day, what we were kind of going for. He went over some things which were very helpful about allowing, thinking about love, thinking about allowing what he uses in the ceremony experiences. And I hadn't done a ceremony in years, like such a busy dad, wife, kids, entrepreneurship. Like I never have like forget a 3 or 4 day retreat, let alone 6 hours. And my wife and I, we're just not those types of parents. Like we don't do date night. We don't do like romantic getaways. Like we like being with our kids, and our kids are super athletes. So literally like we are driving them to sports or watching sports, and we enjoy it. We love it. So like, that's our thing. Like we hear these other parents are like, they're going away for the weekend. Like they're leaving their kids. Like it's just not in our, it's like, really? It's not in our wiring. I get it, but maybe it should be. I don't know.
No, you guys run a great ship over there, man. Every time I come to like hang out with you, I've got to meet your whole family now. For the listeners, I got to go over Adam's house and do the most epic and life-changing sauna session I've ever gone through in my life. We can get into that later, but dude, I love your family, man. It reminds me of like being around my parents, and just my parents were always super close to me, never went away. They just loved being around, you know? So I totally feel it.
Yeah. So, but my wife and eldest son are in Germany right now. He's doing some professional soccer tryouts. So I dropped my son off for school. Like I have some time to myself for the first time in age. So perfect time to get invited in the men's group. So they hand out the mushroom, and we set our intention for the day, and we chew and we chew. You know, when you do mushrooms, if you're not making them into a tea or encapsulating them, you really want to chew them, just as a little sidebar. Chew the hell out of them. You'll get a little sublingual absorption, which is very beneficial. And all the saliva and digestive enzymes in saliva can settle the stomach and prevent upset stomach and absorption and so forth. So just a little sidebar. Then we lay down on our mats, curated playlist, beautiful earphones, eye mask, and he comes over with the intramuscular ketamine injection. That's the stack. So it's MDMA, hape, mushroom, intramuscular ketamine. I was respectfully terrified and excited at the same time. I had some things I was working on. I had some intentions very clearly in my mind. And I'm on this really nice padded floor mat, and I'm like, all right, it's music good. Oh, something's happening. Oh, a little mushroom, a little MDMA. Huh. And then I was like, and I just go. And I'm like, dude, I literally said this, what is happening? And I have this part of me goes, uh-oh, you've gone too far. And this other part of me goes, it's amazing. I literally, at the cellular level, I felt myself go, just burst. I felt my cells shatter. And I was left with this persistent through the experience. There was this kind of double helix, like spirit or soul, that stayed with me. And I could identify that was me, but the body was gone. The mind, the thoughts were gone. There was this helix of energy, which was very much combined with the other energy, but some individuation I kind of kept. And then I was in a roiling ocean of God's love. And it was dark, but there was a bioluminescence in this ocean. So the waves would ride, and I would see luminescence. Sometimes in certain tropical environments on full moons, you see there's a luminescent algae in the water. And it was kind of like that, but it was code. And I don't know whether like this whole thing with the DMT laser that's going around that everybody's talking about, like, I don't know whether that was implanted or me, or I was authentically seeing that. But when I shared my experiences afterwards, just to jump ahead, other people were experiencing that same thing. So I'm in these waves, and it's just God's love. And it's like, oh, this is so delicious. This is so wonderful. And then there would start to be this constriction, and I'd feel a darkness. And it was a person, an experience, an emotion, and it was given to me. It didn't organically come from me, consciously come from me, this helix of energy that I was during that time. It was coming from the divine. And I'd be like, oh no. And I'd feel this constriction and it was terrifying. And then there'd be this, another explosion. I'd literally feel myself rise up, maybe a chakra, but I was on another ocean of God's love. And I was like, oh, it's just love. It's just love. And I was using this mantra, allow, allow. I did recall to repeat that, allow, allow. And then it was a series of constriction, expansion, God's love. Constriction, a little bit of terror, allow, expansion, God's love. Maybe 6 or 7 levels of that. And then I got to a level where I could self-identify a little bit. And my wife came to me. This is the part that was just so wonderful. First, my wife came to me, and it was this sense of like, oh my God, we found each other again. Like I felt, and she came to me in this energy. So we were these like helixes of energy that are now spinning and moving and dancing with each other. And the whole time, they're like spiritually fucking with you. They're spraying essential oil mist and fans and different things are going on. And you're like, oh my God, I'm in the forest and I'm with my wife and it's so amazing. And we found each other again. But dude, it was this amazing thing that like I've known her for lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes. And she was the wife and I was the husband, or I was the child and she was the mother, or I mean, like it was just these energies, and we've known each other forever, and this overwhelming sense of gratitude that we found each other again, which was amazing. And then my kids started coming to me, and how long we've known each other, and that we're all dancing again with each other in this life. And that was, then I was able to, and there was an overwhelming sense of gratitude and appreciation in God's love and the divine love that we've found each other again, and the love for my wife and for my kids. It was in this realm now where I could start to work with the energy. Like I could bring in friends, and I could bring in family, and I could bring in Brain Supreme, and I could bring in my mushrooms and my partner, and praying for them and praying for the product and praying for the business. And I could project with my wife and my son currently in Germany. I could project the love there, that they're surrounded in love, they're protected by love, they're uplifted with love. And then I could think about, as parents, you have a level of awareness to how you use your voice and your language and your conscious parenting. Okay. And most people are kind of hip to that. But then there's also vibrational parenting. And being completely honest, and parents out there will probably relate to this, but like there are certain aspects about your own children sometimes that like can revolt you, like you find revolting, because it's the part of yourself that you've never really come to terms with. And I'm aware of that, even in my vibration. It gets the best of me sometimes with my kids, but I'm aware, especially because I have 2 boys, and you have certain ideas of how a boy should behave, a man should behave, these concepts. And there's certain times like they're sometimes just picking their nose, and it's like it's revolting to you, like why? And then so I was able to pray for my kids at the vibrational level and ask for that forgiveness of vibration, that I'll work to clean the vibration up. So there was a time period where I could work in the entry phases. The energy was overwhelming and was working me. And at the midpoint, bottom third, I could start to work with the energy of the divine in this experience. And then you start to come out of the experience. The descent seemed pretty quick. I had aware that I had a body again, and I could feel myself moving my fingers and my toes, and it was quite amazing. And then I was wondering how long I'd been gone for. And I'm like, I don't think that lasted very long. I think I should stay here and wait because I don't want to disturb other people. So I started to get a little self-conscious and aware. And then I dared to take my mask up, and I looked at my hands, and I'm like, oh, wow, these are my hands. These are my fingers. Like, it was like I was like a baby again. Like, they say at 5 months old, a child finally realizes, oh, these are my hands. And I was like, these are my hands. I felt like I was a baby again. Like, oh, look at that. And then I rolled over because they tell you to like do memo record for it. And it was 1 hour and 57 minutes. And it turns out I was the last one to emerge from the experience. And then one of the facilitators came over to me. His biblical name was Aaron. And this beard, bright eyes. And I'm like, Aaron. He's like, yeah. I'm like, I love you. Like, that was amazing. and he's like, do you have to go to the bathroom? I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta pee. And I'm like, I'm a little wobbly. He goes, put your hands on my shoulders. So I put his hand, and he had these strong legs and strong calves. I'm like, wow. So then it was like the kind of mushroomy deliciousness of the come down. And then we went into the circle and we did some integration work. And some people could share if they could handle that. Some people just didn't want to speak. One guy just needed to eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. It's just really funny.
That happens sometimes.
He was right next to me and he's chomping and it's still so heightened and loud and he's chomping and chomping. And I'm like, I'm going to choose not to get annoyed by this because this has been such a great experience. But it was really funny. So I was kind of laughing at that. And then the place has saunas and cold plunges and hot tubs. So we were able to have a really nice integration period with this group of guys for the next 2.5 hours of integration and conversation and sauna and cold plunge and some beverages and so forth. So, and then literally like I was home 6 hours door to door. So for like a busy guy, because I've been invited to retreats by friends and colleagues and so forth, and I just can't do it, man. Like, I can't dump 2 kids on my wife for like 3.5 or 4 days while I go. Like, it just doesn't work for our family. So, as a busy dad, to have that experience bookended in 6 hours was absolutely phenomenal. And there was some real lasting change to it. Some people who I've held some real anger and animosity towards, like that's just completely lessened.
Yeah.
And, there's like how we are, like it's like an old campfire that you think is out, but if you stir it, the embers just, they're still there. That's how anger is for so many of us. We're not thinking about it right now, but something comes and stirs it up. Like, there's still a really hot coal there. So some of those coals, a lot of those coals are much more extinguished, if not entirely, greatly diminished. And then it softened me around the house with all the pressures and building the company. And, I'd said on the first podcast, like how badly I face planted in the cannabis industry. And, those things still haunt me, but there's more self-forgiveness there. So it was a wonderfully beneficial experience. And as a busy dad, the fact that it was in 6 hours was just amazing.
Dude, thank you for sharing that, man. So powerful. I mentioned to you that I have a friend named Scott, who I met probably about 3 years ago. It was after I went on the Aubrey. He got my info from Jason Picard and reached out to me and was like, hey, we got to chat about cannabis and yada, yada. So eventually I went down to West Virginia and visited him. And he's a good old boy from West Virginia. Such a great guy. And got that perfect Southern draw, like he's just like a man's man. And so we were in his office and he was like, hey, have you ever heard of Clarogenics? I was like, I have no idea what that is. And he was like, he couldn't even tell me what it was. He was like, dude, I don't fucking know. He's like, they put me down on the table. They fed me some stuff. All of a sudden they injected me with something and I just whited it out. And he's like, I came back and was like, what the fuck was that? And like, he's newer to the realm of psychedelics. So for years I had that thing in the background of like, what is that? I wonder what Clarogenics is. I've never heard of that before. And so then fast forward 2 years, it was last year now, I was at Confluence, which was a festival in Texas that Alec, our mutual friend Alex Zach, put on. And I was talking to someone random there. And this guy I met, Mike, he was awesome. We were getting into all the sovereignty stuff together and whatnot. You may actually know him. He may be part of the group that you're in with Luke Story. I forget. He's awesome. His name's Mike. He's a smaller guy. He's not my height or your height, but he's got glasses, black hair. Anyway, regardless, super cool guy. And we start talking and he's like, yeah, have you ever heard of this guy, Samuel Lee? And I was like, oh yeah, Sam Lee, the guy that talks about like, the Anunnaki and all that stuff. He's like, yeah, but also the Clarogenics guy. And I was like, wait, what? Like that's, and then it all came back in. And so then he explained to me what Clarogenics was, which is just a way of combining the same 3 medicines that you were talking about. Yeah. And it's powerful because that combo seems to be incredible. I mean, I've done MDMA and mushrooms many times together, and that has been fan-flippin-tastic. Also hilarious and silly. Like the points where you come out and you're like, I love you. Like we used to be in like, all-night raves where like come out of the bathroom, it's like, oh, the mushrooms are hitting now. Okay. Yep. Everything is wonky as hell now, But I have limited experience with ketamine, mainly because I'd rather do it somewhere like you did it. I'd rather do it in that kind of setting. Yeah. I've never been big on putting things in my nose, except Hape. Hape I'll do, but snorting ketamine or whatever, I'm like, nah, I've avoided powders my whole life. I'm not going to get down that road. Just never really resonated with me. But the idea of doing it in a setting like that really resonates with me. And, it seems like they do an amazing job.
Amazing job.
Yeah. And guys, for everyone listening, if you're in Austin, now you know where to look into, right? There's so many people out there that are like doing things not the right way, not in a safe way. And so to hear people that are doing it with so much intention and so much grace and just unity is amazing to hear for sure.
Yeah. Awaken Ranch and then the Within Center. You can Google or whatever, you'll find it on the line. They have 1 day processes, protocols, multi-day, addiction, so forth. It's quite a place. It's quite phenomenal. Really good people.
What's hilarious too, and by hilarious I mean annoying as hell, is the fact that those should be everywhere. Like that should be, not to shut all over life, but like we should have that option. Not that it's for everyone, but for the people it is for. I mean, dude, imagine how long it would have taken you in a sober state in therapy to go through what you just went through.
I don't know
Years.
if it's even possible.
I know.
I don't know if it's even possible. I mean, look, the thing that psychedelics do, therapy attempts to get to us from the outside in. It tries to use language and reason to unlock the emotions, which is a very hard way to go about it. Psychedelics go straight to the emotions, and then they introduce God and the divine, which transcends the intellect and reason, so that your understanding it's ancient, it's ancestral, it's connected to the spirit realm, and your intellect and your processing is like, oh, I get it now. It's much easier. Yeah. So the modern psychology goes about it, beneficial for some people, but it goes about it the exact backwards way.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, that's, as someone who trained to be a therapist, like that's why I didn't know at the time why I wasn't resonating with everything I was learning. There were a lot of facets. Of course, any centralized organization for someone like me or you guys listening, probably not going to be the most fun thing ever. Not to mention the fact it was so expensive. Not to mention the fact I was learning from professors that were professing rather than actually doing the thing. And then couple into that the fact that I'm like, if someone can do therapy for 10 years, that just means it's not efficient. Some people wear it like a badge of honor. And hey, if it works for people, great. I'm not here to knock anyone's or yuck anyone's yum. But for me, I know I'm only alive in this illusion for a small amount of time, hopefully 120 years, right? But as a result, I want to make the most of this. So if I can get rid of some of the weight I'm carrying in a more efficient way in a safe container, I'm going to take that bet every single time.
100%.
It just doesn't make any sense to me why someone would not want to go the quicker route. And again, that doesn't mean that it's objectively bad. It just, I literally cannot make sense of why someone would want to take longer to do that. Makes no sense.
The thing with therapy is it's exhausting because I'm trying to use my intellect to unlock something in you that you feel you're unlocking. And it's a very hard code to crack and safe to crack. As the psychedelic facilitator offers these medicines, holds space, loving space for you, and then the medicines and God go to work. Who would you rather have solving your problems? Professor, Shlomovitz or God consciousness?
Yeah.
Like really?
100%.
Yeah.
I know what I would choose every single time.
Me too.
And it's just like we see it at Breathe with Cannabis. I was telling you before we hit record, we just created an 8-week program out of Breathe with Cannabis called Limitless. And so we've done multiple events together before, like live. Like when I came to Austin, one of the hundreds of times I've been there, we did a 3-night in-person event that was wild. But in this container, we're doing one every Sunday for 8 weeks. And literally the first one, and actually was not even the first one. It was the webinar we did to promote the program. And when people started joining the program, one woman commented in there, she was like, I just learned more about myself in 2.5 hours yesterday than I did in 20 years of therapy, healing retreats, all these kind of things without psychedelics. Mm-hmm. And that's what we live for. It's like, why do you think these medicines are here? Okay, cannabis, yes, you can use for rope, you can use for other things, but like mushrooms, what else are those used for except to eat and trip, and have a healing experience? Also, why did God make psychedelic medicines some of the hardest things to stamp out ever? Cannabis and ayahuasca can grow through cement. Good luck ridding the world of those. Mushrooms literally go from shit. So good luck ridding shit. Like, it's almost like God was like, well, by the time the monkeys realize they need these, we need to make sure they're not stamped out. So we're going to make sure they grow from like things that they could never stamp out fully. It's very interesting to think about that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I often talk about that I feel mushrooms are sentient and that they're using us even more than we're using them.
Yeah. I 100% agree.
For the preservation of their own environment and So they still have this planet to grow upon and
Yeah.
be prosperous, and do their thing.
Mushroom Spirit is hilarious as well. Like, it's probably one of the most sarcastic, loving, but like hilarious. Like, it's very like Boston or New York energy, I feel like, with mushrooms. Like they'll fuck with you, and then they'll be like, okay, we're done fucking with you now. And they'll laugh with you, Like, I've had so many times where they act like a stern father to me. But then, like, it's kind of like how after your dad kind of lays the law down, he's like, all right, let's go get a fucking ice cream, Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of that same kind of thing. I remember one time I did a gigantic tea without really knowing what the hell I was getting myself into. I had an experience where I was laughing to something we were watching, and then it triggered a visceral response that I was choking. I ate mold on the mushrooms, and my throat was going to close up. I was having an allergic reaction. And so
Is that true? This is true?
That was the thought that happened. I mean, the story is true. I wasn't actually choking, though, but luckily. But what happened was I went into a panic response. I had my mind still there being like, I don't know if this is true, but my body was in full panic mode. It was like in an instant, like quicker than a second. It was like I had taken the time to think about it, realize it was true, and then take it on within a second. And so my mind was still kind of like, wait, like, are we really choking? But there was this panic response setting in. And of course, I didn't want to seem weird in front of the people I was also with. So I tried to hide it. And I went to the bathroom, tried puking. Nothing would come up. I'm like pacing around the bathroom. I remember, like it was yesterday, I mentioned in my head, should I call 911? And the voice was like, no. Like, it was this hilarious thing. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that. And then as I'm pacing, all of a sudden it just comes to me. I'm like, wait a minute. I would have died by now. Oh, my throat still feels fine. And then in that moment, it was like the mushrooms were all just kind of laughing at me like, see, this is why you don't just take gigantic amounts of mushrooms without knowing what you're doing, all right? Now go lay in your bed and see some cool visuals, man. It was like one of those moments where I was like, God, whoops, my bad.
Right.
So funny. And they work like that,
They do.
I found that.
I did the Sam Tripoli podcast some time ago, and he was talking that, he hasn't done mushrooms since he ate 5 grams in an airport. I'm like, you ate like some amount. I forget what it was, but I'm like, you were tripping while flying in an airport? No, worst place ever.
That is insane. Like when I hear stories like that, it reminds me there's some people that are like, it reminds me of Fear and Loathing, where Johnny Depp looks at, I forget the other guy's name, but he's like, there he goes, one of God's prototypes. It's like that. There's some straight up prototypes out there. My buddy's dad is in his 70s, and we were going out to a Paul Chek workshop, and we got on the plane. Me and him are sitting next to each other. He's been a guest on the podcast many times. I won't mention the name just in case, but we're sitting next to each other and we're just shooting the shit. It's like literally 9 a.m. or not even. It was like 7 a.m. We're leaving Boston, Logan. I look back and I'm like, oh, how's your dad doing? He's like, oh, man, he eats like I ate the mushrooms when he comes on planes and just falls asleep. I'm like, wait, what? Because like his dad is a gangster. But like I was like, dude, what? Like he eats mushrooms even a little bit? He's like, oh, yeah, dude, he's always done it. I'm like, that's insanity.
7 grams too?
No, like 3.5 grams.
Oh,
like
3.5. Sorry, 3.5.
Yeah, like an 8.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, quarter would be insane. I mean, but like to me, like I don't even connect with cannabis at all when I fly. Like I want to be stone cold sober, like straight up. Like that's the way I like to fly. I don't like having anything when turbulence happens in me that makes me think that we're going to go down in a fiery crash. So yeah, some people that do that are God's prototypes, man. More power to them.
Yeah.
That's insane. I'm curious for you, man. Like, after having that experience, how long ago was that you had that? Was it 2 weeks, 1 week, something like that?
It's 3 weeks ago yesterday.
3 weeks ago yesterday. So, a question I get a lot from people is like, how do I integrate? What does integration look like? Now, you mentioned at the end they had an integration ceremony, which, you already explained, but I'm curious for you as an individual, what integration looks like the days, weeks, months after an event. Like, do you think about it? Do you not think about it? Do you just let God take the wheel? What does that look like for you?
Well, I mean, look, I'm in this world and, I used to teach yoga and do that whole kind of thing. And now with the mushroom and the microdose coaching and I don't facilitate on the macro level, but I could give some generalized instruction to people. I'm still kind of like a hard ass in a way. And I think people are too into their emotions, and
Yeah.
they're too concerned about how they feel and what they think. I also don't have like those levels of trauma in my life. So I don't want to be insensitive. Like, thank God, like sexual molestation.
Same.
My parents got divorced at 10, definitely not great, but they weren't abusive to me emotionally or physically. They were absent. So, there's some of that kind of stuff. But like, and also like with dad and kids and finances, like I just got to get on my life,
Yeah.
So for me, I often think like, just get on with your life. Stop making a big deal about everything. Don't make a big deal about your integration, Just think about your experience. It was a great experience. I was so clear on how much I love my wife and my kids and the level of gratitude that I have for them. And yeah, I'm going to think about that. Like, hey man, when it was just me and the divine, or whatever I am and the divine, I was mostly just in deep, deep gratitude for this life and my wife and my kids and, my company and my friends and the blessings I get to experience. So I don't have time. I'm also just not wired. I'm just a get the fuck on with it kind of guy.
Yeah.
So I don't have lengthy integration processes, but to not be entirely insensitive, I also don't have levels of trauma, I think, like other people have had levels of trauma. Or maybe I'm just kind of psychologically strong like that. I'm also 54, so I've been around for a minute. But my integration process is really, reflect back on the experience and how wonderful it was. And the essence of the experience was immense amounts of gratitude and appreciation for the things in my life and the people in my life.
What is up, family? I wanted to take a second while you're tuning in to tell you about an amazing new product I recently began using. Now, you guys know I do ads very rarely, and my promise to you is that anything I speak about is something I personally have found value in using regularly. Well, recently, I came across a company called Brain Supreme, who sells microdoses of mushrooms mixed with adaptogens, nootropics, and other additions as well. And even though I've microdosed off and on for years, I have never felt results like these. In only 2 weeks, I'm sleeping better, I have far less mind chatter, my ability to perform has exponentially improved, and best of all, the sense of inner peace I've been feeling is like nothing I've ever experienced in microdosing before. Right now, you can get 15% off of any of their products when you use code SPRAGUE15 at checkout. And to find out more about them and grab some for yourself, head down to the show notes for this episode and begin your journey into microdosing today. Now back to the show. Yeah. Dude, I love that, man. I'm on the exact same page as you. I think that, and this has been something I've been singing on the podcast for at least the last month or so, but it's really just hit me the fact that if the first Hermetic principle is the all is mind, or another way you could say that interchangeably is the all is God, then nothing really exists unless we think it exists. And really, I think that makes every illness or disease or anything a thinking illness or disease first.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think there's like a balance, right? Like, for instance, like I say to people all the time, you can witness children, because children, especially below the age of 6, are very close to God still. They don't have the ego formed yet, etc. So like when your kids were little, if you were at the playground with your wife and the kids and they're running around, you're talking to your wife and one of them falls, skins his knee. He's going to run over, maybe crying or whatever. You're going to be like, it's no big deal, man. You're fine. Put a Band-Aid on it. And what is he going to do after that? Is he going to sit there and talk about his wound? Is he going to sit there and, ask you how long, or is he just going to get up and go back to the playground? And if he tries to get up and he's limping, maybe he'll sit back down, but he's going to try to get back up and go start playing. And then he's going to decipher whether or not he can or not, and then you'll kind of be watching him too, of course. But like kids are not ruminating and rummaging in their injuries, And so I think there's a balance because like you said, and this is not to be insensitive to anyone who has trauma, for a lot of people I know that have severe trauma, they deal with it when it comes up. Like when it's there, okay, work with it. That's the perfect time to work with it.
Mm-hmm.
But if they wake up feeling good one day, I don't see the people that are really successful at this going to be like, I'm going to go look at my trauma. It's like, no, I'm going to deal with the energy I have today. Right now, I feel great. Do I know some events happen in my life that maybe I'll need healing from? Yes, etc. But you know what? Right now, I'm feeling okay, and I'm going to be okay with that. I'm going to go with the flow of the current, not try to control and bring myself back to it. And so when I start a coach call with a client, I'm the same way. I say, what energy are we working with today? And if someone says, dude, I feel great, I'm not going to be like, great, let's go work on childhood trauma. That just makes no sense. And in a way, it's kind of masochism. And I think that's unfortunately what the spiritual community has bred a little bit, is like, you always need to be doing spiritual work. And it's like, you know what the biggest spiritual work is? Living your life. That's the biggest spiritual work. Because there's theory and there's actual practice. It's like when I learned guitar, there's theory I can watch, but it doesn't mean anything unless I put it into action. And so the challenge I see in the healing space right now is that a lot of people are always going back, I need healing, I need healing, I need healing, which implies directly that they're not healed, and also is keeping their attention where energy is flowing on this idea of healing. When in reality, in my opinion, at least what's worked for me, which does not mean it's objectively right, but it's just interesting to see the difference. For me, exposure therapy, it's like I want to gain a little bit around like, hey, why do I feel weird getting on stage, for instance? Okay. Oh, yeah, from an early age, I've had that. Okay. Let me just go get on stage 100 times and just get over the feeling of it. And that for me is the quickest way there. If I'm in a psychedelic experience and something comes up and I start crying, cool, I start crying. And then as soon as I feel the cry ending, I just go into whatever's next. And I think it's a training ground for life. And I think that life gets sticky and weird when we try to like control what phase we're in at what time. So I love that idea of integration of like, listen, I'm reflecting on it. It's an awesome moment. If I'm meditating one day and something else pops through, cool, I'll focus on it for as long as it takes. But I'm not going out looking and trying to plan all this integration work, because the fact that I feel good means that my ceremony integrated in a positive way already. Yeah. So I love that. Yeah.
It's interesting with the parenting thing. You'll see this with young parents, that they'll start to condition victim consciousness into their child. So when that 6-year-old child gets picked up from preschool, if that child's going to get more of the mother's attention by relaying the bad things that happened in the day, and the more the mother consoles that child for the bad things that happen, it's conditioned victim consciousness. I used to do the exact opposite. When my kids would get hurt, I would say I would always want to create a level of disassociation. And I would say, give the pain to the dog. What? Give it to the dog. What? I can't give pain. Yes, you can. And that's what dogs here for. They love you so much, they'll take the pain. And they'd be like, what? I'd immediately get them disassociating from their pain and talk. When I coached little kids sports and soccer, I coached all my little kids sports up until about 8 or 9 years old. And you have the teams. We always used to bring our dog, Sherman. And so Sherman's just like, you've seen Sherman. Sherman looks like a dog that's like meant to endure suffering, say like, so I'd always have Sherman on the sideline, and the kids would always, give it to Sherman. Like, what? Give the pain to Sherman. Sherman will take that pain. He'll be right back on the field. And they're like, just the fact that they were no longer associating with their pain, they had to associate with this other absurd concept. Their pain would diminish, and then you see, you're fine. Let's go.
And dude, that's so healing, especially for men, right? Like, I don't know about women. I'm not a woman in this lifetime, so I'm not going to try to speak for women here. But I know for men, my dad would be like, dude, it's fine. It's fine. Like, I would feel like, oh, it's got to be fine because dad's saying that. But if you freak out and you're like, whoa, oh my God, are you okay? Like, it's going to make them go, oh my God, am I okay? Because they're kind of waiting for your reaction to see how they should react.
Yes.
I remember one time I ate shit, dude. I used to do these bike shows for my parents. We were like 11 or 12 years old. My neighbors were triplets and our parents hung out. So we were doing this bike show, and I went off a jump in the driveway, and my foot slipped off the pedal, and I landed and just grinded the fucking pavement. I still have a scar on my elbow right here from it. And I remember I was freaking out. My dad was just like, you're fine. You're totally fine. It's all good. And I'm like, oh, I can't look at it. He's like, it's not even bad. You're going to have the coolest battle scar. And I remember during it, I was like, oh, yeah, all right. Yeah, okay. Because around that age, you're starting to hear about women and they exist. He's like, you know who loves these kind of things? Women do. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah. And like, that's what's going to cure you, like,
yeah.
So funny.
Yeah, that's not, I mean, in your adult life, we're all very aware of the people in our lives who just can't wait to reveal all the shit and trauma that's going on in their lives. It's kind of fun. If you can like reveal the shit going on in your life as like a story, and you're laughing at it while you're revealing it, and you got your buddies and you can get, but you can't like wallow in it. And it's the quickest way to make yourself unattractive to, people in your life, just by wallowing in your own shit and then inviting them to wallow in. Look, I got enough of my own shit. Like, I'll hear you for a while.
Yeah.
But I'm not like, I'm not wallowing in it. Forget it, man. You shouldn't either.
I 100% agree. And it's honestly depressing in a way, because when I was a teenager, I used to do that. I was a metalhead, so I loved rainy days and, wearing all black. And so, there were times where like, I realized that I learned it from my mom specifically, Because when I talk to my mom, I love her to death. She's amazing. She's done so much for me in my life, but she's kind of a little bit stuck in, past things that have happened. And I can have empathy in realizing like, at this phase in her life, she's remembering the days that she had a lot of fun, but she remembers them in like all the bar fights and all like the things she had to break up. And, it's an energy you feel when you're around people like that. It's kind of like, it's like an energy, like I want to pull you out of that, but I know I can't. And maybe their karma in this lifetime is to be in that state. Who knows? I have no idea. But yeah, it's a certain energy that you can feel. And I just do not like it. I think part of my mom signing up for this lifetime to be that person in my life was to show me like, hey, that doesn't really lead anywhere good, And so in a way, my mom has become my Rishi is how I think of her now. She's shown me so many things through direct experience that I do not like the results of.
Yes.
And so it was hard because it's a lot easier to just, complain or play the victim like I have in my life before. It's a lot easier on face value to do that. But the after effect is a lifetime of misery. So it's like, yeah, it may sting a little bit more to accept accountability on something now, but literally 10 seconds after that is a world of freedom.
Yeah.
And that's once you have it once, you're just like, why would I ever go back to the other thing?
Yeah.
Just silly.
Very much so.
Yeah.
I think one of the long-term benefits of microdosing I've noticed is that there are certain emotions that you just can't abide. And victim consciousness, inauthenticity, like, I'm in victim consciousness. No, get out of that. I can't abide that. And inauthenticity. That's like been the amazing things about the 7 years of owning this company and developing and so forth is that I've shared that with other people and they're like, that's kind of true. Like once you have a mystical experience, inauthenticity strikes you because your experience in the psychedelic realm is like 100% authentic. And the reason why so many people change their lives when they come out of a psychedelic experience is not that they had a vision on what to do next, is that inauthenticity becomes completely first, it doesn't necessarily become unpalatable to them, but they become completely aware when they're being inauthentic or what's inauthentic in their lives. And then it causes them to course correct. Could be immediate, could be over the course of a year or two or more. But once you get aware of your inauthenticities, a course correction is inevitable. And both at the macro and microdosing level, psychedelics really help in that area. They'll course correct you towards leading a more authentic life.
100%. Because you'll feel like, in my experience anyway, it's like when you're in an experience like yours that you were explaining where you felt that constriction, you realize that what it is not actually what reality is. It's not God that's constricting. It's not any of that. It's your own perceived limitations.
Yes.
Or it's parts of you that want to argue for limitations because maybe they're terrified or scared of some level to go forward. And before we become conscious of those, that they're parts of us, and we learn how to reparent them, if you're going to use integrated family system terminology, or we learn just how to, hold space for them, but not allow them to take the helm. That's the difference, right? It's like the analogy I usually give here is that it's like kind of like a dinner table. And what I experienced in my life anyway, I'm not sure if this is similar for everyone, but it's almost like I didn't even know a dinner table existed for 23 years of my life. I didn't even know that I was at a dinner table. So what had happened unconsciously was that instead of being the head of the table, like the father figure, I had kind of ended up right in the middle with all the voices just slamming me from every angle. And so because of that, I ended up thinking I'm all these voices. And so what a psychedelic experience allows you to do, at least for me, is reorient yourself to the head of the table. And what that does is allow you to realize, like, I'm in the helm of this ship. So there's no one to blame but me. And also that's the beautiful side, because if there's no one to blame for how things went wrong, there's no one that can fix it to go right except you as well. Right. So that's what I mean. Like, yeah, it stings a little bit, but like when you realize it's only you, it opens up a world of freedom. And once you do that, now you can hear all your little parts talking over there. I'm scared to do that. I don't want to do this. It's boring, whatever. And you can be like, okay, as the father and helm of this dinner table, I hear that all of you guys want food. Everyone's hungry, right? Yes. Okay, you want chicken nuggets, you want chicken tenders, you want pizza. Well, here's what's going to happen. We got chicken nuggets in the freezer. That's what we're cooking. That's what it is. And then you just move forward. And so, to bring it out of analogy, it's kind of like when that voice comes in your head, like, oh, when they do that, she makes me so upset. And it's like, no, I made myself upset and I get to look into that. That's my work to do. Mm-hmm. I could say this person is annoying me, right? But in reality, it's whatever I have determined creates annoyance that is annoying me in this person. It has nothing to do with them. So once you start realizing all roads lead back to you, then it actually becomes fun in the way. Because now when someone triggers you, it's not just an annoyance that's random in your life. It's like, oh shit, there's something there for me. And that's the opportunity to be like, maybe I want to go do a meditation or take some mushrooms or whatever and figure out what that thing is.
Yeah.
You know, figure out what that part wants. It's like a tantruming child inside of you because you probably have exiled it and you haven't looked at it in a long time. Maybe you learned it was bad somewhere or whatever. Or like you were saying with the repulsion, maybe it's a part of you that you also do that when you see it, you're like, ugh, but you don't realize you're also doing it. Because if you spot it, you got it.
With my kids, especially my youngest, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. I'm totally aware of that. Everything that I'm hard on him about is what I am struggle with in myself.
Yeah.
Like 100%.
It's so humbling. So humbling, you know, and it's so freeing too, because it just makes life feel more like silly, you know, like it embodies that quote that I love that says, nothing you do matters, but it's very important you do it. You know, it's like, it's that idea, you know?
Would you text that to me afterwards so I remember?
Dude, yeah.
That's a really good one.
I love paradoxical quotes, man. They're like my love language. Because when you have a psychedelic experience, you realize everything is in paradox. Like, we think we live in a world of duality, but really the reality that we actually come from is non-dualistic in nature.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, that can be kind of like, oh, like, what do I do with all this information? Then when you just realize it's fucking hilarious, and I'm God in a human suit pretending to be a human, also having inklings that maybe I'm more, and everything and everyone around me is the same thing. Also all like kind of like, what's going on here? It's hilarious, honestly, when you start to like swim in that primordial soup. It's really funny, man.
It is, for sure.
And I'll attest to what you said too, real quick, about the daily microdosing. I've been on your products now for 8 months. Maybe more, around there. And I've been taking them religiously, like 5 days a week, taking a week off every month or so. Sometimes I mess up and go 7 or 8 weeks, whatever it is, what it is. Happy accidents, as Bob Ross would say. And dude, I mean, I feel great. I mean, those the athlete ones, dude, are like a secret superpower. My trainer will be like, dude, what did you like slam some C4 or like some boost or whatever? And I'm like, no, dude, I ate mushrooms.
Yeah.
They work great.
That performance dosing, you know, the thing with microdosing psilocybin is that, you know, you can use it as a supplement, you can use it as a performance booster, or you can use it on a peak day, and you can move around between the two. And it's funny you mentioned C4 because the world headquarters of C4 just opened up literally 2 miles from my house.
Dude.
Yeah, the energy drink. And on the bottom floor, they put in a world-class training facility for their C4 athletes and then visiting pros and so forth. They have one outreach program for kids in the neighborhood, speed training. I found that trainer and I got him to start working with my son because he has his mornings open and so forth, blah, blah, blah. So I've been going there and they let me work out while they're training my son. So I have this world-class training facility now, and there's like NFL guys everywhere and like really high-level trainers. So I've been totally working out so hard, and I've been doing the performance dosing Monday, Wednesday, Friday now. 2 genius, 2 athlete, or sometimes, you know, just 3 athlete, 3 genius, some combination, somewhere between 3 to 4 capsules. And I'm usually combining genius and athlete. And my God, dude, my workouts have been awesome.
Dude.
It's such a great performance tool.
You know what you realize, or at least what I realized when I took mushrooms and worked out for the first time? I was like, no wonder the Vikings used to eat mushrooms before they ran in the battle. It makes total sense now.
You know, by the way, I think that's partly true, but I actually spoke to a very renowned Norwegian scientist healer. And what he told me is that after the battle, they came from a warrior culture where death in battle and killing for your God was good. So the whole condemnation, moral problems that plagues our soldiers and PTSD. But what he told me is they used to have 2 tents set up for after the battles. One was for physical healing and the other's for psychic healing. If you had an injury, you went to the physical healing tent. Everybody else would go to the psychic healing tent, and they would be dosed with psychedelics to get a deep rest and to heal and to communicate with the ancestors and the ancestors of their victims and so forth, so they could psychically heal and prepare themselves for battle again. There is some evidence that they would go into battle I know I've read about this with the Germans and high dose Amanita muscari and some other things. The Vikings, I've mostly heard about that they would use it for trauma healing immediately following the battle.
Gotcha. That's wild to think that even the Vikings were doing trauma healing, you know?
Yeah.
That's so nuts.
It's funny. I'm actually watching that show right now, Vikings, which
Dude.
you look like you could be cast in that show.
I've always wanted to be cast in that show. I actually have a friend who was. I met this guy, Chris. He came to a retreat that I was on with actually the same guy I was mentioning whose dad eating mushrooms on a plane. That kid and two of his buddies, we used to run an event around here, and we hosted a retreat together. And this guy, Chris, came, and he like literally looks straight up like a Viking. And I was like, dude, you should be on the show Vikings. He's like, bro, I am. I'm like, what? And so he lives over in Germany. That's where he's from. And so I think they went to, I don't know where it was, Greenland or Scandinavia, something like that. But he was like an extra, you know, it wasn't anything crazy. But, you know, it's so rad, dude. I love that show, Vikings Valhalla. Have you seen The Last Kingdom before?
The movie from years ago?
No, it's a show. It's like 4 or 5 seasons with Uhtred.
Yeah. I actually did think I saw part of that one as well. Yeah.
Dude, that's my favorite Viking show out there. It's epic.
The Last
Vikings
Kingdom?
Valhalla is good too.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite shows.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Where's I'm just curious, where's Athelstan in the show so far? What point are you at with him?
Which one's that?
He's the priest that they capture from, I think, England.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah. So the main guy has just become the king. Has just become the chieftain because he killed the corrupt chieftain. And so he is just witnessed the kind of debauchery and paganism and the pagan ritual death of one of the king's slaves who chose to die with the king and had her throat cut by the angel of practitioner of death. So he's like completely freaked out. But I think he's also envious of their freedom and the confidence that they have in what they do and how their actions are aligned with God. So he's completely conflicted.
Yeah, his storyline is epic. It's so crazy in that show. I'm excited for you to see more of it.
Oh, okay.
I won't spoil anything for you.
No. I can kind of see where you kind of get the sense, like, I don't know right now whether he's going to convert everybody to Christianity or he's about to start going native himself.
Yeah.
So I can't, it's kind of 50-50 right now.
Yeah, man. I'm so excited for you to check out more. Definitely look at The Last Kingdom too. And guys, for anyone listening, if you like Viking type stuff, either one of those shows is going to be epic. So good.
Yeah. I mean, my house is modest. And so the chair that I watch Vikings in is the chair that I wake up at 4 a.m. and sit for meditation. And I've had this thing where I'm like struggling because like the last energy was just like, you know, a battle, gruesome, something terrible. And I'm now sitting in that. So I'm like, I can't do my meditation in my bedroom because the breath work and deep breathing, I'll wake everybody up. So I have to do it in a certain part of the house. And it just happens that's where the TV is and that's the chair. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm so engaged at night watching the show, but I'm like, this is going to screw me up. This is the energy I'm going to jump into at 4 a.m. when I wake up for my practice.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So funny, dude. I mean, honestly, sometimes those kind of energies blend very well together because we would think they don't. But like, really, what is like a show like Vikings? It's all shadow work, just emulated in the physical form. It's like we all have those parts of us. I mean, like men specifically, you know, at least for myself, I don't like thinking about this all the time. But like, if someone broke into this house and tried to go for Rachel, I don't know what I would do, you know, but it wouldn't be kind, you know.
Right.
And I think that like that's why a lot of men get drawn to those shows because fortunately we don't have to really allow those things out, but they're in us, you know, they are in us and we do need to find a healthy way to express them. And a lot of the time it's just being able to identify with them in a show or something like that. So I totally feel that. Like I never watch violent shows like or movies for no reason. But like if it's a Viking show or like a really good storyline, I will because it makes sense. It's not just random violence.
Yeah.
I don't like watching random violence. We usually watch rom-coms, honestly, dude. Like cheesy, super cheesy rom-coms, man.
Yeah. And now Ryan Reynolds has been ruined as well. So
I know, dude. I know. That's a wild thing, dude.
This whole recent story.
Holy shit. Rachel's like so in on it. She's doing the astrology for the whole thing and it's mind blowing, dude.
Yeah. And Candace Owens has been blowing that thing up. She's just so sick of, you know, these people taking advantage of everybody so much. But Yeah, it's strange times we're living in. Interesting, terrifying, strange.
It feels like the Jedi are winning, it feels like it, but also I think we're starting to realize how big the Sith forces really are,
Well, yeah, and I kind of, I'm very concerned that my triangle of understanding about life is kind of accurate. Did we talk about this in the sauna? We talked about this with Ryan Sprague in the sauna. Because I'd always said, like, Christ consciousness is the top. Then on the one side, we have the Luciferian consciousness. And then on the other side, we have the real satanic consciousness. And the satanic consciousness and the Luciferian consciousness has been in collusion for years. But now the satanic consciousness has entered its final stages, which is the destruction of humanity and the planet as we know it. And the Luciferian consciousness is like, oh no, I need the planet so I can dominate. So my feelings, we've always had like Trump and Elon, this kind of Luciferian consciousness. And then we have the satanic consciousness, the pharmaceutical industry, Gates, Fauci, the World Economic Forum, all these, Klaus Schwab, all these kind of things. But I was optimistic for a while that this Luciferian consciousness was going to return to God. Some of the things about the early Trump administration, the way he was campaigning, but I don't know, man, we're like 45, 50 days in, we're bombing Yemen again, it's the Gaza's out of control. And I'm like, oh, come on, man. And, that's the one thing too, that also came out of the psychedelic experience. Like, it's so crystallized. It's like, that is not the thing we're here to do. Like, we are not here to destroy life. Like, we are not here to make generational scars on people and their families and their ancestors. Like that, that's the stuff you go into psychedelic experiences to clean up. So like after you've had the psychedelic experience, macrodosing, microdosing, and you see organizations, institutions, governments, ideologies just walking people into more generational trauma. You're like, oh my God, please stop. Please stop. Like no one in Europe right now wants to fucking go to war against Russia. Only the powers that rule the continent, who are definitely not going to be the ones that fight, are the only ones that want this. No one in the United States wants to go to war on behalf of Israel right now, and battle Iran and all this stuff. Like we're all, as humanity, we're just so sick of it. So, and I'm still like trying to keep some optimism that consciousness of like Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, the things she ran on now, like, I mean, I saw a thing on Jimmy Dore, where he was breaking down all the time she talked about Yemen and through 2018, 2019, criticizing Trump, criticizing Obama before that for bombing of Yemen and the Houthis. And I don't even understand what's going on there, but whatever. U.S. foreign policies probably get the fucking root cause of it anyhow. So just stop. It's terrible. Nobody in the world wants it anymore. A majority of us see through the veil and the bullshit and the deception.
Dude, I totally get it. And I totally agree. And that's like, one of the things I found recently is just the beauty of being informed, but not smothered too, because, like, here's the thing, right? Is like, I'm very much like you. Like, I like to know what's going on in the world. I like to be, like investigatory and I love that stuff and it's super fun. But it almost got to a point where I was realizing, like, wait a minute, I think now, like, because the original kind of thing was like the mainstream media would say something, whatever, and then people would be like, hey, here's what's really going on. And then they'd be like, oh, wow, that's so weird. And so it was fun because you'd be like, oh, let me figure out what's really going on. Now, both sides are just like essentially that kid in school, like, he called your mom a bitch. You really gonna let him do that? And it's just these two sides. So on one side, they're like, you're going to let those conspiracy theorists do that? They don't know what they're talking about. And all these people are like, yeah, down the conspiracy theorists. And then the other side, the conspiracy side is more like, hey, like they're doing this, that, and the other thing. And you're like, what is true anymore? Like, I don't really get it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it goes so insane that I've just kind of got to a point where I'm like, you know what? The best thing I can do for myself and the world is purify my soul, have the biggest smile possible, put light into the world, and trust that love always wins, because that's what I feel. And maybe I'm naive, but I really believe that love always wins. And if it doesn't look like love's going to win, we're just not at the end of the story yet. Because think about it, right? If love is all it really is, right? And maybe not love is the term, but like God, I guess, is a better term, because love is technically an emotional state, I guess. But like, if God is all there is, then at the end of the day, if we just focus on our faith to God, and it doesn't have to be a religious way, it could just be like, hey, I love my dog, so I'm going to focus on that. Or I love my partner, I'm going to focus on that. Or I love playing guitar or running my business or whatever. If we just focus on doing what's going to beam us up the most, then I think we have the best skill set possible to wake other people up, because everyone wants joy. And when they see someone who's like charismatic and joyful, and what they want to know what that person's, secret is. And so the more that people keep saying like, it's love, I start my day with love every day, I think that we'll start seeing more and more people wake up. Because again, if no tree's branches can reach to heaven, if its roots don't first reach to hell, then what are we being gifted right now? We're being gifted an experience where we're going really down into the roots of hell. We're starting to see and have eyes to see how there's deceiving and, malicious characters on both sides, on every side, some of you a lot more than others. But, again, at the end of the day, it's like all nefarious shit, And so I think that the more that we just stop paying attention and take our dollars away, they'll crumble. I mean, we're talking probably about, I don't know, I'm just going to take a random guess, 5 to 10,000 very influential people versus 7.5 billion or whatever it is. It's like, if we just take the power back, they literally can't do anything. So that's, I still love diving into a lot of this stuff, but there's like a certain dose size I can take of it now before I'm just like, oh God, I'm getting into that crazy area again. Yeah. And it's annoying because it used to be so fun to just dive into conspiracies and fun. Now you never know what is the conspiracy and what's just another level of it.
I find that David Avocado Wolf's Telegram channel is like just enough. Yeah. And then I'm out.
Yeah. That guy's hilarious, dude.
He's the best. He's a meme warrior, as he says.
He's so funny, dude. Yeah. I mean, talk about an absolute gangster, too, to start the whole raw vegan diet type stuff and to still be so silly is like such a good sign of like, that's the kind of person I want to follow. I want to follow someone who's, 50s, 60s and still knows how to be a goofball. Like that's a good sign for me, Yeah. Because life is far too serious to ever be taken seriously, Yeah. So funny, man. Well, Adam, this has been a blast, dude. I can't wait to do more and more episodes with you, man. Can't believe we blew through an hour already, dude. I could talk to you all day, but to make sure people know where they can find you, again, I'll put the links in the show notes, but where can people go to find more about Brain Supreme, contact you if they have questions, and just stay up to date with everything you got going on, man?
So brainsupreme.co is the website. If you email me through the website, I will, unless it goes to spam, and if it goes to spam, just try again. Almost always within 24 hours, if not instantaneously, I'll get back to you. I do this whole voice to text or voice to email thing. So there's some humorous malapropisms and misuse of language, but you'll get the gist of what I'm saying. And it might be too long an answer, but you're going to get an immediate response. I think we make fantastic microdosing products that seem to be helping a lot of people in the world, whether you need just a little bump or you need, some major shifting. I have a free coaching course online as well. The nice thing about selling a brand is I can give away knowledge for free, which is easier for me. So we give the whole coaching protocol away. Just you give us an email, we send you the link. I've got the new Brain Supreme podcast. It's up on all the different platforms. We've done 4 episodes so far. So Ryan, I'm looking forward to have you on my show when you're out in Austin. So but the website, brainsupreme.co is the best way to get a hold of me. I'm shit on social media. I have other people do all of it. I don't even know how to manage. It's terrible.
I don't blame you, dude. It's a thirst trap. I know how to use Instagram, but like the level of tediousness that making a YouTube video is, I'm just like, no, dude, I'm a coach that teaches cannabis. That's what I want to do. I want to talk about being highly optimized. I don't want to sit behind a computer all day messing with algorithms. Like that sounds like the most boring thing I could possibly ever do. And I worked at Staples when I was a kid. So that's saying a lot, So anyway, man, this has been a blast. I usually ask the last question. You've already been a guest on, so I don't have to ask the last question. So thank you so much for coming on, man. Guys, thank you so much for sticking with us, for hanging true. Adam, like I said before, has the best products I've ever tried when it comes to microdosing protocols. Not only that, but they're very unique as well. Like I've never had a microdose that's ever felt like his, and he's got these all different 4 products. He's got Feel Good, he's got Genius, he's got Athlete, he's got the Black Stack, and they're just a very unique blend. So definitely go check them out. You can use code SPRAGUE15 at checkout to get a 15% discount. And we'll have that on the show notes, but definitely reach out to Adam if you have any questions. Guy's awesome. He's one of my ride or dies, so I get him on as much as I can. So enjoy, guys. And as always, may the source be with you to infinity and beyond. Peace for now, guys. Bye.